Hi everyone, let's take a look at section 9 of chapter 17, and this is looking at a new gland. So that means new hormones, and this is going to be the adrenal glands. What we're going to do first, again like we did with thyroid, is we're going to go in and take a look at its structure and location. Then we're going to take a look at the different hormones that are going to be produced from the adrenal cortex. And then we'll also take a look at the hormones produced from the adrenal medulla. And then we're going to take a look a little bit more closely at cortisol as well. So let's first take a look at, of course, the anatomy of the adrenal glands and where they're found. Here are the adrenal glands. Remember that they're superior to the kidneys. And what we're going to focus on mainly is going to be the two regions, the adrenal medulla and the adrenal cortex. All right, so let's go ahead and cut into that adrenal gland and take a look at the two different regions that we want to concentrate more on. So you are going to have this capsule right here. You see it completely surrounding. It's pretty thin capsule, thin tissue right there. Then we're going to be taking a look at, let's first look at the medulla right here. The medulla, just think medulla middle, it's right smack dab in the middle of the adrenal gland. Lots of blood vessels here, and so it gives it this kind of red-brown color. So obviously that's not the true color of the adrenal medulla. We're going to be taking a look at how epinephrine and norepinephrine is going to be secreted here. Remember, this is the only time where we're going to find that neural stimulation, one of those stimuli that we talked about way back in another section, humoral, hormonal, and neural stimuli. This is going to be the only place where the neural stimuli is going to be found. So remember that the sympathetic nervous system is going to go in and stimulate the adrenal medulla whenever it needs epinephrine and norepinephrine, and we'll talk about when that is. And then you have the adrenal cortex right here surrounding it, and that is going to be, since the adrenal cortex is going to produce lots of lipid-soluble hormones. It is going to be kind of yellowish in color because of the lipids that are going to be found in all of these cells. And it synthesizes more than 25 different corticosteroids. And obviously, we're not going to be talking about those 25, are we? No, we're not. So don't freak out about that. This is going in and taking a look at the different zones. I wouldn't worry so much about remembering which zone is producing which particular hormone. Just kind of taking a look at how it is separated here and just looking at where the zones are going to be. And these are specifically in the adrenal cortex. This is not going to be, there's not going to be any zones in the medulla. You have the zona glomerulosa. These are going to be where some mineralocorticoids are made. We're going to be taking a look at those. The zona fasciculata, that is going to, all right, here's that one. And then there's that big one right there that I just mentioned. Glucocorticoids, we're going to be talking about. And then the zona reticularis is going to be that last one that sits right next to the medulla. Here it is. This is going to be where we are going to have some androgens being produced. So let's take a look at the hormones that we want to look at that are produced by the adrenal gland, specifically in the cortex. Remember, these are adrenal cortex hormones. First, let's take a look at aldosterone. As you can see, with all of the chemical classes here, they are all steroids, right? Yes, we know that because we went over that before. Aldosterone's main effect is to go in and increase reabsorption of sodium. Remember when I talk about reabsorption in the kidneys, that means the kidneys are going in and sucking it back in, and it's putting it into the bloodstream. That's what's happening. We'll talk more about the specific definition of reabsorption in the kidneys later on, but that kind of gives you an idea of what I mean by reabsorption. So it helps actually increase sodium levels in the bloodstream. And at the same time, anytime that sodium leaves, so does water. Because remember, water and sodium are best buds. So is water and glucose. Wherever glucose goes, so does water. So it goes in and helps increase water in the blood as well. So, but at the same time, anytime that we increase blood sodium levels with aldosterone, we are always going to lose some potassium. So that's going to be one of the consequences. But in the urinary system, we'll talk about this a lot more and the benefits to this. All right, now let's take a look at cortisol, cortisone, corticosterone. These are going to be those glucocorticoids that were mentioned earlier. That is going to be, the main function here is going to be where it increases the nutrient levels of the blood, all nutrient levels. We'll take a look at how a lot of it's going to be glucose, but there's going to be other things that are going to be put inside of the bloodstream as well. And then the last one, before we'll get into cortisol a little bit more here in a second, we're going to take a look at the whole negative feedback loop that's involved. We really don't get into cortisol later on in any of the chapters that much. That's why we're going to go into it a little bit more. And then the last thing is androgens. Just a little bit of androgens are going to be produced here. Not enough to really give full-blown characteristics or full-blown effects that other androgens from the gonads are going to produce, but it helps with hair development. It helps with sex drive in women. So usually, if you have an excess amount of this being produced from the cortex, then you can have some issues like hirsutism. That's where you kind of get that's where you get kind of the bearded lady look, I guess I should say. But that's going to be one of the things there with androgens. So in the next video that you guys are going to watch, we're going to continue on and take a little bit closer look at cortisol and its whole regulation and effects. So until next time.